Why did we want an alliance with President Karimov? Well, in 1998, the Uzbek ambassador, Mr. Sadiq Safayev, traveled to Texas to meet the governor of Texas, Mr. George W. Bush. And they met in the governor's mansion in Texas, in fact, there's an excellent book called Murder in Samarkand. It's actually the best book I have ever written. And you'll find a copy of the letter from Kenneth Lay to George Bush, recounting the meeting in that book. And Enron acquired, as a result of that meeting held by George Bush in his capacity as of governor of Texas, Enron acquired Uzbekistan's natural gas rights. Turkmenistan, next door to Uzbekistan, has even more natural gas, incredible amounts of natural gas. The natural gas reserves of Turkmenistan are equal in worth to the oil reserves of Iraq, if not greater. But you can't get it out. There's no way out of Central Asia for this oil and gas except through Russia, and the Russians won't let it go to the West, or through Iran, which the Americans aren't keen on. The only way to get it out would be to have a pipeline going over Afghanistan. Fortunately, George Bush Sr. was a director, or shareholder at least, of another company called Unocal, which was planning a pipeline over Afghanistan. And the Unocal actually held negotiations with the Taliban to protect the pipeline over Afghanistan. In 1991, 9 and 2001, Taliban delegations also visited Texas. I'd love to find out if they called on George W. Bush. That would be tremendous, but I fear they probably didn't. But the consultant who was organizing this for Unocal was a certain Mr. Karzai, who is now president of Afghanistan. So there you have George Bush Sr., Karzai, and incidentally Khalilzad, all linked in Unocal with Enron tying up the gas reserves in Uzbekistan and the pipeline over Afghanistan to bring it out. Now, the pipeline was actually designed. There are designs of this pipeline. And if you look at the deployment of US forces in Afghanistan as against other NATO country forces in Afghanistan, you'll see that undoubtedly the US forces are positioned to guard the pipeline route. That's what it's about. It's about money. It's about oil. It's not about democracy. All these wonderful elections. I think Karzai, they obviously took him to Florida to teach him about voting while they were at it. Karzai, I mean, 1/3 of his results were fraudulent. 1/3 of his ballots were fraudulent. It's the claim that he didn't know. Nobody told him. It's like, imagine you're playing poker with somebody and you find they've got 7 aces up their sleeve and you catch them and then you say, oh, never mind, let's have another hand. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's going to... Have they not heard of the word disqualification? The truth of the matter is that the Karzai administration, for 5 years, the media parroted without dissent lies about the Karzai administration, lies about Karzai, making him out to be a wonderful democratic figure. One thing that really makes me sick is a constant linking in the media to the opium trade, the heroin trade, and the Taliban. Less than 10% of the heroin exported from Afghanistan is exported by Taliban-friendly people. Well over 50% is controlled directly by actual members of the Karzai government, including Karzai himself and his brother. The biggest heroin dealer of all is probably General Dostum, who has just been brought back, and who many in the Pentagon think should be empowered and because of his fighting reputation. Dostum is a terrible murderer who used to tie dissidents within his own ranks to tank tracks and run them over. Dostum is closely linked to President Karimov of Uzbekistan, and a great deal of the drug traffic goes out through Uzbekistan, up the railway line to St. Petersburg and out into Europe through the Baltic. There's a sense in which Afghanistan is the greatest developmental success the West has ever seen, because the GDP of Afghanistan has increased by about 150% since we invaded it. The trouble is, all of that increase is in heroin. In 2001, the Taliban had cut the heroin harvest down to virtually nil. Last year, it increased by 40% on top of a 60% increase the year before. And nowadays, they don't even export opium anymore. It's a great developmental success. They've got into value added. It's all made into heroin before it's exported now. And we know where it is. Dostum's heroin factories, it's done on an industrial scale. Petrochemical tankers carrying the chemical precursors are sharing the same road as our troops. But it's done by the government we are protecting. There are so many lies about Afghanistan. It's about money, it's about oil, it's about drugs, it's about the abuse of human rights, it's about degradation, and it's about all of us paying through our taxes for wars which benefit a tiny clique. Thank you very much.